Hey, Sparxba here, I'm ready for my guide. Today we're going to look at the wonderful Sparxie, but if you remember, I already looked at the long descriptions of her kit in a previous video, so we're going to avoid repeating all that. However, I will do a quick summary and also explain important points about her kit not discussed in the previous video. After that though, I'll go straight to calculations on her Eidolons as well as her best builds and how good her Lycone is in 4.0. Then of course we'll finish with themes. So like and sub if this video helps you out at all. Good luck with your pulls and let's begin. So if you want to see more about her kit, I recommend watching my kit review from a couple weeks ago, but now to summarize Sparxie's kit, she is a high SP consuming damage dealer that can consume up to 20 skill points in a single turn, generating punchline for large Elation skill damage, as well as buffing up her enhanced basics for also large Elation damage. It seems her goal overall is to do damage and generate a whole ton of punchline, and her vertical investment options seem to go further with that concept. And her ultimate and elation skill will generate points of thrill, which can let her offset SP consumption, and using her skill in general has a chance to refund 2 SP to help deal with the potential high cost. But you don't technically need to use every single little bit of SP every turn, you are allowed to save some for other characters. Using it is just a little extra damage and some punchline, and if she is a sub DPS as her kit hints towards, then using it for damage wouldn't even be the smart play in the future. Also, when we get to third Elation, she'll likely be able to spam out decent amounts of skills without really using much SP at all. Every Elation skill can give her 2 free skill uses, which should be every 75 AV when super optimized in 4.0, but it'll also be much easier when we get a third Elation unit. And Aha also acts every Yaoguang ultimate if using her. So then in Cycle 0, that's already 4 to 6 free skill uses. If we then consider having 3 Elation characters in the team and eventuality in 4.2 or later, then we get 4 thrill and ultimate, so 8 to 10 free skill uses in cycle 0. But then she has SP refund on her skill enhancements, right? Well, it's RNG, so I decided to replay a stage until she hit 100 skill enhancements and recorded every single occurrence. It resulted in 83 sets of 1 punchline and 17 sets of 2 punchline with 2 SP, so every 5 SP used is actually 3 on average. And since in Cycle 0 we're getting 10 free skill uses in 4.2 with Yaoguang, that is 14 free skill uses with the 20% refund chance. So yes, she can be an SP black hole, but when considering her full potential, and this is without even knowing what future Elation units can do, she actually doesn't really use that much. It's mostly to generate punchline anyway, not to do damage, as her Elation skill has much better base multipliers. So I think we'll be fine on SP, but as always, we will have to see what kits come out. Future Rail is a risky game. Anyways, let's check out the Eidolons now. E1 lets us generate even more punchline as well as increasing all type res pen of all allies. A nice and simple buff that will not really be impacted by any future characters as it is a fully team-centric Eidolon. E2 is weird though. We get extra turns on Sparxie and more thrill every Aha instant ending. Now, right now, it isn't too impactful, but I can see it being strong when getting an Elation carry that can utilize her extra turns in like a Fei Xiao or Acheron way. Extra turns means a little extra damage, and she gets some free skill uses. And an enhanced basic every Aha instant also means an extra 40 energy. More energy means more ultimates, so more punchline as well as more thrill, which also means more punchline generated. E4 is some extra punchline and elation for Sparxie, a small damage increase, and punchline is starting to diminish a lot now. And then E6 is all about Sparxie's damage. Tons of additional damage instances on her Elation skill for a disgusting increase to her DPAV output. But in a full Elation team, this will likely be a lower overall increase as we start to see more damage dealers contribute to the overall team power. So here are the overall Eidolon sims for Madame Sparxie. As always with new archetypes, now that we've seen Mono Remembrance happen, I would recommend waiting until the full team is complete or near completion before vertically investing. 1. You don't need to vertically invest in a new team, they're going to be OP. 2. We don't know how impactful each vertical investment is right now. And 3. We don't even know who will make up the final teams. As for her Lycone, I talked about it not being too impactful in my early calculations, and after finishing them, it did go up a bit, but again, I don't recommend investing when you wouldn't even need to at the start, and reruns exist for if you ever do. It buffs up Sparxie's damage a whole ton, it gives some quality of life with SP, and buffs all allies' elation percent. Now this elation buff will become decently impactful when we get more elation units naturally, but how impactful is only known in the future. Right now it is only buffing herself and Yaoguang a little bit, but it could end up crazy. This also buffs her up a ton, but we don't know how much of the total team damage she'll end up doing in the future, so part of it could get worse too. For now, you could stick with the Battle Pass cone, which should also be great for any future Elation DPS, as it is generically strong with crit rate and a ton of Elation percent. And as said in her pre-release review, Mushy Shroomy works perfectly fine too for free-to-play players, as it can stack and it has a fine passive right now. Shame about the 3 stars though. As for Sparxie's build, you want to go none other than the brand new Magical Gale set, 16% crit damage and up to 20% Elation damage def ignore. For planar ornaments, until we get Elation specific ones like we did with Remembrance, we will opt for the also recently new Tengoku planar set with its 48% crit damage. Izumo also works for some crit rate and some more attack percent if needed, but its ceiling is much lower. Your main stats will be crit rate chest, speed or attack boots, attack orb, and energy or attack rope. For the boots, you can go speed for now if running a 200 speed Yaoguang for a 134 speed Sparxie and thus a 134 speed Aha instant. However, with more Elation units this won't be necessary, and speed is useless when Sparkle would be bringing her up anyway. If not running that super fast Yaoguang or no Yao at all, then you can go attack boots. If Sparkle leaves the team, then we'll see how her build changes later on. We'll probably go back to running her at 134 speed. For the orb, damage percent is technically stronger, but because I prefer energy rope on Sparxie, I would recommend going for an attack orb to help hit her breakpoint for her Elation self buff. Attack rope is a bit more damage than an energy rope, but more ultimates in a fight can balance out the damage and help more with punchline and SP, which will prove more useful for sub DPS Sparxie in the future. So I prefer energy, which again means an attack orb. For your stats, first aim for 3600 attack for her Elation buff, giving herself 80% Elation. As for speed, again, you'll just go base speed normally, but 134 can also be a good goal depending on if you're optimizing early or not for Aha turns with Yaoguang. Then for crit, with all the crit damage buffs we are getting as well as her traces giving both crit rate and crit damage, you can aim for a ratio of 100% crit rate in combat and 150 to 200% crit damage pre-combat before extra buffs. Anyways, let's finish off the video with her teams. Sparxie right now is our sole Elation DPS, and for her to truly shine, we want Yaoguang. Yaoguang, ignoring attack and damage completely, lets her whole kit scale all Elation and non-Elation damage. She also buffs Elation percent by a decent amount herself, and the core part of her kit is those Aha instants on ultimates. An Aha instant for free means more Elation skills, which are a very high multiplier for Sparxie. It means more SP for Sparxie through Yaoguang, and it means a bunch of Guoba certified bangers stored up. Sparxie, Yaoguang, Sparkle, and Huohuo or DHPT make up the premium Elation team right now. I really like Huohuo for the energy she helps provide to Yaoguang in particular. However, you won't need her right now. Thanks to all 3 endgames having Elation-centric buffs and Sparxie being a brand new DPS, she doesn't technically need Yaoguang. If using her in non-Elation modes and or fights, it'll be rough, but you'll have your other teams for that. So if you don't have the pulls or you just really love Sparxie and don't want Yaoguang right now, then don't pull Yaoguang. The aim of the game is to have fun after all. You can do what I call riding the shill with just Sparxie for a bit and see later on how you want to develop your team. So at least always use Sparkle. She's free in 4.0, and how can you pass up the opportunity to run 2 Sparkles in one team? Then we want a buffer that can fully buff Elation damage, with any extra synergies being nice to have. The 4 I recommend in the 3rd slot will be Tribby, Cypher, Remembrance MC, and Silverwolf. None of these units have attack or damage percent buffs in their base kit. Tribby is about res pen, damage taken, and doing damage herself. Cypher provides vulnerability and records damage, eventually outputting it as true damage. RMC focuses on crit as well as true damage, and Silverwolf's large res and def reduction is a ton of amp, and she can do fantastically in lower target fights. So Sparxie, Sparkle, and then one of these 4 gamers, and with any good old sustain, you'll be ready to face the music. But that is all today on Sparxie's guide. It's a bit of a weird one since I did a pre-release kit review, so let me know what you thought of this structure, and of course, let me know if you're pulling Sparxie down below. Thank you so much to my YouTube members, thanks for watching, and have a Guoba day.